A good day to all. We just start with a brief prayer. God, cover us that your will be done, your kingdom come, and we do nothing outside of your will as representatives of the people. In Jesus' name, amen. First of all, I'd like to say good day to all. My name is Andrew Foy, representative for the 1st Electoral District. And we also have Mr. Honorable Julian Fraser, representative for the 3rd District. We are both members of the opposition, Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition. And I want to say welcome to this press conference, this press briefing. And I say good day to all and God's blessings to all. First, I take this time to say happy festival to all. Let us celebrate this season in a manner that reflects that we have full respect for the freedom our ancestors sweat and toil with help from God to give each of us and our future generations. At this time, we salute what our forefathers have done for us, and we are ever grateful. Let us cherish our freedom. Let us remember that history never repeats itself. People repeat history. That is why we will continue to bring important issues as members of the opposition concerning areas of concern with the handling of the management of certain issues by the current administration. In no way, and do I repeat, in no way do we intend to oppose just for opposing's sake. We want what's best for this territory, and we will exhaust all efforts in ensuring that as leaders and as a people that we guide our actions accordingly so that we can get our desired results. As such, we remain steadfast in purpose and diligent in actions. We are cognizant that in the same vein where Her Majesty's government have their role to play, we as members of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition also have our role to play. We all must play our roles and play them well. We are fully aware that power is not ours to get or ours to give. It is not will to us. Talks of our actions being one of being power hungry is just an organized distractor by the government to try to derail democracy. Our duty as elected officials is to work in the best interest of the people of this territory. Our roles as opposition members must not be clouded with our loyalty to the Virgin Islands Party. The Virgin Islands Party is not, and I repeat, not in a fight for leadership. We are not fighting anyone for leadership because power is given by God alone. We are the only party with a tried and proven constitution. This ensures and guarantees that all issues, present and future, regarding the Virgin Islands Party will always be handled within the boundaries of the party's constitution. The question, however, is, are there pressing issues in this territory that needs addressing? The answer is yes. Must they be addressed? The answer is yes. Whose primary duty is it to do this? The answer is elected officials. Are we elected officials? The answer is yes. During the vote of no confidence motion, a few days ago, a few charges were laid on the current administration, of which in their deliberations they answered none. They sidetracked all the issues. Charges were laid before them of conflict of interest, nepotism, abuse of power, and the disregard for the protocols that they signed on April 23rd, 2012, putting the territory in an irrevocable position for generations to come. During that process, The mover of the motion, Honorable Julian Fraser, was able to highlight the areas of the protocol that we see that are clear violations by this current administration. We intend to continue to bring the issues to the people. And as elected officials, we'll continue to do so. And we will not let any attempt by anyone derail democracy. At this time, I will now call to the podium the mover of the motion of no confidence during that time, Honorable Julian Fraser, who will bring clarity to certain aspects in which he was speaking about during the motion. And then after he is finished, being that I'm chairing, I'll also give a few more remarks about areas of concern with the current administration that we are clear that if they are not checked now, generations to come will suffer because these actions were not checked when they should have been. So now I'll welcome to the podium Honorable Julian Fraser, next followed by myself, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Honorable Fraser.
Thank you, my esteemed colleague, Honorable Foy from the 1st District. Good morning, folks. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. I want to apologize for the cramped quarters. I'm sure that the information that we have would trump any discomfort that you may have because of the cramped quarters. On July 16th, I brought to the people of the Virgin Islands and laid before them a series of charges against our government, including those of violations, egregious violations against the protocols which they signed with Her Majesty's government on April 23, 2012. Among those charges was Section 2 of the protocols, which included transparency, good governance, and accountability of leadership. This government's continued refusal to bring before the Honorable House matters of importance so that the House of Assembly can, in fact, according to the Constitution, hold the Cabinet accountable is a violation of Section 47.3 of the Constitution of the Virgin Islands. The protocols in Section 6 promises that a Public Finance Management Act, an enhanced Public Finance Management Act would be enacted by August of 2012. That didn't happen. It only took constant prodding from members of the opposition to the government, and by year's end, it finally made it to the House of Assembly and was approved. Section 9 of the protocols requests that the government of the Virgin Islands will assess the impact of all proposals and decisions on expenditure, revenue, and borrowing in the context of a medium-term fiscal plan. That medium-term fiscal plan is yet to be seen. Therefore, they are in violation of Section 9 of the protocols. The protocols in Section 11 says that the government of the Virgin Islands will ensure that all projects, however funded, are suitably appraised before the procurement stage to ensure value for money. We all know that this is not happening. I point to a project going on in Greenland called the Georgie Hill Project. This project started out at $300,000. Today, it stands at $1,146,457.67 and still going. I point fingers at the Peebles Hospital, the parking lot adjacent to across the street from Peebles Hospital, which was executed in part at a cost of $359,000. Had these projects been through the tendering and procurement process and had gone through the process of standing out of the protocol Section 11A, where they would have been evaluated before going to procurement, those things wouldn't happen. The protocols promise in Section 11B that all projects must be subjected to a tendering and procurement process that guarantees the highest level of transparency and fairness practices. All of us knows the story about the Tortola Port Pier Park project, and Royal Caribbean Limited, one of the two prime bidders on that project, has indicated to the governor, the premier, and the minister for overseas territories their displeasure with the process. And they wrote in a letter to the governor on January 13, 2013. And their letter stated, by way of this letter, we wish to formally express to the government of the Virgin Islands, the government of the United Kingdom, our dissatisfaction with the entire bid and negotiation process, which failed to confirm the minimum standards that typically are present in a genuine government privatization tender. There are specific matters of concerns from legal and other perspectives which render the entire process questionable and unlawful. That's a letter that was sent to the governor, copied to the premier and the minister for overseas territories. The violations continues along those lines as far as sending all projects for tendering and procurement. This is in the area of contract splitting. Contract splitting is a procedure used to avoid tendering. Tendering, as it is for projects that are considered major projects, that's projects for over $100,000. This was before the protocols. Before the protocols, a project over $100,000 must be tendered. What the government seeks to do is to avoid getting into that area by breaking up projects into smaller components and issuing work out on petty contracts and purchase orders. This practice has been heavily utilized by this government, and subsequent to the protocols coming into effect, which was April 23, 2012, subsequent to that coming into effect, this should no longer happen. But here's what the government has done. The Rodang parking lot across the street from People's Hospital, $359,000. They did that job through the process of 9 petty contracts and 29 purchase orders. Crafts Alive, $1,408,000 project, a major project. They did that with 21 petty contracts and 39 purchase orders. Mance Road, $683,000, a major project, should have been tendered. They did it with 13 petty contracts and 40 purchase orders. The Adina Donovan home for the elderly. Now this one is really tricky. They have decided to remove components of that project, such as the retaining walls and the infrastructure, the roads, to avoid having to write to the Secretary of State for permission to proceed with the project. So they have taken out a portion of the project so far valued at $1,067,000 and have executed that with 19 petty contracts and 60 purchase orders. The Georgia Hill Road, as I mentioned a little earlier, $1,146,457. That's a major project. Should have been tendered. So far, they have executed $233,000 worth of that project through the process of 3 petty contracts and 35 purchase orders. Section 16 of the protocols, that all proposed capital projects will be incorporated into a medium-term fiscal plan. There is no medium-term fiscal plan, another violation of the protocols. The protocols promise in Section 26 that the Virgin Islands will present for the approval of the Secretary of State a plan and medium-term fiscal plan if necessary to remedy the breach. The facts are there has been no medium-term fiscal plan. Therefore, there is no plan to the Secretary of State outlining the remedies for the breaches. The protocol in Section 27 promises that in the event of any substantive non-compliance by the government of the Virgin Islands, in the respect of the protocols and until the breach has been rectified, the government of the Virgin Islands will obtain on an annual basis written approval from the Secretary of State before the medium-term fiscal plan is finalized. Of course, the medium-term fiscal plan is so way out of schedule that can't even be spoken of. There is none. It doesn't exist. B, any new borrowing is undertaken. Well, they can't borrow any money because they're in breach of the contract, of the protocols right now. So therefore, any borrowing that this government must undertake, they must seek approval from the Secretary of State. Proceeding with any new projects with a lifetime value of more than 5% of forecast recurrent revenue. That 5% has been reduced to 4%. According to the figures, with all recurrent expenditure being at some $359 million, that 4% is around $11 million. So what it's saying is that any project that we are proceeding to undertake that is valued over $11 million, written approval must be attained from the Secretary of State before proceeding with the project, or should I say before implementing the project, which is a long argument that we're having when I tell them that they have already implemented the ports project. Huge sums have already been spent on it. They have already implemented the airport project. Huge sums have already been spent on it. And a huge amount of commitments have been made on those two projects. And they have not to date even written to the Secretary of State for approval, much less receiving that approval. So there we have some serious problems. D, using public assets as collateral as part of any new arrangement with a party external to the government of the Virgin Islands. Using public assets as any collateral. I submit to you that 4 to 6 acres of land on Wickham's Key that they are ceding to the Tortola Port Pair Partners Group to undertake the project that they're discussing with them right now will be used as collateral. And if they have already entered into so many agreements with this company, it means that they have already ceded that property. No approval to date has been sought from the Secretary of State, much less approved. The hypothecation of any revenue stream. It is my understanding that it's passenger tax that will be used to offset the financing for that project, the seaport, the Port Pier Park project. The hypothecation of revenue is naturally means a reduction of government revenue stream, which this is what this is. That's what this is, and this is a violation of the protocols. Clear and simple. I have been accused in the House of Assembly during the time of the so-called contribution of government of being an agent of the FCO, Foreign and Commonwealth Office, of being almost called a traitor to the Virgin Islands. But to the contrary, my duty here is simply pointing out to this government that you are putting this territory in jeopardy of being subjected to the heavy hand of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, similar to that of maybe Turks and Caicos, but definitely, at least definitely, the Cayman Islands. And it would be remiss of people like myself and the honorable member for the 1st District to sit there with their mouth shut watching this go down. After the debate on the motion of no confidence, I have become more convinced that there are members of the government that does not understand the protocols. As you heard me a little earlier mention the 5% versus the 4%. While I was reading my presentation on the motion, one minister questioned, why am I referring to 4% when the document clearly states 5%? I had to refer him to Annex D. Annex D in the protocol itself, which stated that while our country is in breach of the protocol, the 5% is no longer applying to us. We have to apply, the 4% will apply to us. Where are we in breaching the protocols? Liquid assets. Liquid assets are supposed to be 25% of recurrent expenditure. Our recurrent expenditure stands at somewhere around $260 million. 25% of that will put us at $64 million. As the Premier stated, all he has is 24. So we're in breach of the protocols. As long as that is the case, we are not subjected to 5%, which would be somewhere around maybe 13 million. We're down to 11 million before we have to seek permission from the Secretary of State. I lay at the feet of the government their inability to negotiate what's best for this territory. Prior to the protocols, liquid assets were defined as all the monies in the consolidated fund, in the development fund, or any monies in any reserve fund that we may have. In your case, it will be your savings accounts, your checking accounts, and a CD. Whatever money you can find anywhere around your house, that's reserve fund. That's liquid assets. They went and negotiated down liquid assets in the protocols to be defined specifically as monies in a fund that is unallocated, unencumbered, in a reserve fund. So whatever money we have in the consolidated fund, whatever money we have in the development fund, whatever other fund, cannot be counted as liquid assets. See what this has done to us. We have $24 million now towards liquid assets. If we were able to use the formula that existed prior to the protocols that they just signed on April 23rd, we would have been up to $50 million. $50 million we would have been up to. $12 million are so short of being qualified to go out and borrow money without having to seek permission, to go out and start projects of any size without having to seek permission. That's what they have done to us. And they did the same thing with Social Security as well. Social Security Fund, the Social Security Board, as a part of its mandate, in its literature, acknowledges the importance of their fund to socio-economic development in the territory. So up to 30% of their funds, that $400 or some million that they have, can be loaned to the government, central government, and the parish-titularies, which is the statutory bodies. Prior to the protocols, all government could have gone to the Social Security Board and borrowed up to 30% of that money, which is somewhere in the region of $120 million. Right now, we borrow up to about 50 right now. That's what we have. After the protocol, without having to seek any permission whatsoever, regardless of our standings in the borrowing guidelines, even though we have a breach, we will not have to go and seek permission to borrow money from Social Security. With the advent of the protocols now, government has to seek permission from the Foreign Account Office to borrow money from Social Security because we are in breach. So we can't go to the bank, we can't go to Social Security right now. Anywhere we turn, left, right, center, anywhere, we have to get permission because we are in breach of the protocols. And that a lot of this has to do with poor negotiating skills. That's one of the things that they talk about. Oh, the Virgin Party, was supposed to sign the protocols no matter what. If we had gotten reelected, we would have had to sign it. We had a document called the Framework for Fiscal Responsibility prior to the elections. Well, we didn't sign it. We decided that we were going to enter into negotiations with the British government because the terms and conditions were unacceptable to us. We met with the leaders of the other Caribbean overseas territories, Cayman, Turks and Caicos, Montserrat, and Anguilla, somewhere in March of 2011, and had a discussion that when we go to London in November to discuss the protocols or the Framework for Fiscal Responsibility, we will speak in unison as one body. Of course, the elections came. We didn't make it past the polls. So we never went to the UK to negotiate the Framework for Fiscal Responsibility. This new government, however, they went, and this is what they came back with. On the matter of the economy, the Premier has been sending mixed signals to all of us. I picked up from his 2012 budget address when the title on the budget address stated that Austerity today ensures economic recovery tomorrow. From that moment on, I knew that the method that they were using, the model that they were using for the economy, of economic recovery, was the European model of austerity. I said in October of 2006 to the Premier, you need to inject some capital in the economy. As a government, you have to do that because the economy in the territory has begun to slip. Now, this whole thing started, the economic slide in the territory started from back when the government decided to cut the civil servants' increment in half. These increments were increments that were earned. You earn your increments 1 year, and the following year you get paid your increments. They decided to cut them in half. And from there on, we can point fingers as to when this economic slide started. Then we had the issue with Colombian Emeralds and Little Switzerland closing down. Those are two major multinational jewelers that no tourism destination such as ours can afford to lose. We have lost those, and there has never been an outcry by the government. Then there was the acquisition of Commonwealth and Equity Trust by TMF. Shortly after, 15 employees lost their jobs. This was a shocker in the financial services sector. These are things that we are not used to. Just recently, as you can remember, a spate of layoffs. CCT in the telecoms industry laid off some 16 employees. Some of those employees have been employed by CCT for over 20 years. Again, in the tourism industry, where the Moorings laid off 16 of their employees, five of whom were upper managers. This all came on the heels of the American Eagle decision to move out of the region on April 1st. American Eagle, in its heyday to this territory, ran up to 12 flights a day, each with a capacity of about 64 seats. That's in a day, we're talking about some 768 passengers moving in and out of this territory. And the connection between Tortola and San Juan by American Eagle cannot be matched by any other carrier, given that American Eagle had its connection by its parent American Airlines, opening the American market to us, and by extension the entire world through their One World Alliance. We now know that in a few short days or weeks, Long Bay Hotel will be closing its doors for a series of months. And when they reopen, they will come back in the form of a 42-room seasonal hotel, as opposed to before the closure, it was a 100-room hotel. And that 100-room hotel was all year round. Now, what is telling about this Long Bay closure is that they have laid some charges against this government. And they're not, I wouldn't consider them to be subliminal, even though they are not direct. But anyone reading what their position is can see. It says that the Antigua-based elite resort felt that it had no choice but to change its business model, given low visitor traffic into the Virgin Islands and the state of the economy. He further stated, "We've been sustaining losses for some time, and we've made concerted efforts to turn things around, employing expensive salespeople here, there, and everywhere in the world," he said. It's simply not happening. There's no indication in the marketplace going to turn around to bring tourism to Tortola. Those are the troubles that we're having in the tourism sector of the BVI. When asked about the factors that contribute to the resort's losses, the general manager cited insufficient and unreliable airlift, undependable ferry connection to Tortola, to St. Thomas, and potential visitor unfamiliarity with the territory. Potential visitor unfamiliarity with the territory. What is that saying about the tourist board and its job? And he went on. The manager further exclaimed that more aggressive promotion of the destination is also needed. I've talked to a number of our guests that said, we found the Virgin Islands purely by accident. We talked to our friends about Tortola, and they had no clue where it is, he said. According to the Premier, as published on July 12, 2013, he said the job market and some other sectors of our economy have been showing some slowdown. The Premier, however, noted that tourism, financial services and other primary indicators of the GDP suggest that the BVI has been holding its own quite well. Well, I don't think the Premier would like to tell that to those 50 or so employees from Long Bay who have just been told that they will be losing their job. In speaking of the financial services sector that I just mentioned, another July 11, 2013 news article casts a very different picture of the sector as well. The article revealed that Virgin Islands trust firms formed 1,199 fewer companies during the first 3 months of 2013 than they did during the same period in 2012, which represented a 6.7% drop in company registration. What people should be hearing, this is what I was expecting, and this is what I said. What people should be hearing from our Premier in times like this is a way to move the economy from where it is stuck in the mud. They don't want to hear anything that will probably work in 4 months down the road. Of course, long-term planning is always necessary, but we are in a mess right now. We need to get out of it. Even at this 11th hour, hope, just hope can go a long way, as long as it comes with a guarantee. The folks at Long Bay Resort would most definitely be inclined to stay open if they were assured that airlift would no longer be a problem. So if after 19 months, even if after 19 months of pushing the expansion of the Terence B. Lessam International Airport, our Premier could get up and tell the territory that I have just concluded negotiations and discussions with Delta Airlines, and we have agreed that there will be a direct flight from Atlanta to Beef Island. If he could only get up and say something like that, if he could only get up and say that I have just concluded discussions with United Continental and have agreed that there will be a direct flight from Newark, New Jersey to Beef Island. Those are the kind of things that people want to hear. We want to hear that you've been working just the same way you've been working to expand the airport, you've been working to bring business to the airport. Building an airport is one thing. Well, if you know Field of Dreams, they say if you build it, they'll come. I guess that's what they're looking at. But a lot of work has to be put into this whole thing. And this work cannot come from a surrogate. It cannot come from an agent. It must come from the Premier himself. I can tell you, I know. When the Premier speaks, it's a whole lot different from anyone else. And only he can bring the level of assurance this territory needs right now to us. Not his agents, not his surrogates, not those who get up chahooing in the house talking about who's an agent for what or who's an agent for whatever. I have said before I concluded my presentation on the motion that you're going to hear one or two things. They're going to get up and they're going to use the shoot the messenger approach, or they're going to get up and play the blame game. And both of those predictions were played out in that House of Assembly. I was the one that they attacked. No one anywhere that I've seen addressed the many things that were brought forward in this in my motion, and they blame the former government. Again, if the Premier could come to us and tell us that the issues of unreliability with the ferry service between here and St. Thomas, I have just been to the United States Virgin Islands and held discussions with officials of the United States and the United States Virgin Islands, and we have agreed that passengers between the two islands will now be able to travel with the least possible amount of hassle. People will feel comfortable, people will be assured that the ferry services are being addressed. And if you can also announce at the same time that the ferry terminal at West End will be receiving immediately the highest possible attention from this government, all of us will be assured. Those are the kind of bold statements that the Premier needed to make, and he still needs to make them because he's still holding the seat as Premier. Of course, the motion was voted down, and he's still there. He is my Premier as he is the Premier for everyone else. I have a right as a citizen, I have a right as a member of the opposition, whose responsibility it is to hold the government accountable, to be here speaking to you. I want to say to you that several things happened during the motion. The Premier needs to be held accountable for walking out of the House while a motion is being presented, and a motion of this magnitude. He and his entire government walked out of the House of Assembly, left me, the mover of the motion, standing, left the mace on the table, left the Speaker sitting in her seat. No one sought excuse. I don't even know if they bowed to the mace when they left. There was a procedural mess up in the whole thing where the Speaker wasn't supposed to call for a recess. I mean, it should have sat there for 10 minutes and called the roll. And if they weren't there, just recess the House then. Adjourn as recess to another period. But a whole series of things took place. And the most critical that I'm seeing taking place right now is a subtle attempt to silence the opposition. But I don't think that's going to happen. I want to thank you all.
I want to thank Honorable Fraser for clarifying more of the matters, and you'll have a chance to ask questions as many as you want. You won't be limited like other press conferences. So, what I want to say, just a few words from me as a 4th District Rep. Creating a culture of excellence is one of the current administration's theme. This cannot just be words, because you cannot create a culture of excellence without one of the main ingredients being respect. The respect in the House of Assembly continues to be eroded by many negative actions by this current administration. One such action is lately where the Minister of Communication and Works has informed that if we want anything that we bring to his attention done in our districts, we must check with some of the at-large members. This is creating a culture of disrespect. But another one such action is what Honorable Fraser just mentioned, which was on Friday, 26th of July 2013, during the continuation of the 10th sitting of the second session of the Second House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands, when Honorable Julian Fraser, representative for the 3rd District, the mover of the motion of no confidence, was in the middle of making his presentation, when the NDP government disrespectfully and unceremoniously walked out of the House that was in session. Then they tried to explain that they didn't walk out, they went for discussions. Well, let me say this. They did not ask the speaker to be excused. They did not ask the speaker for a recess. They did not ask the speaker for an adjournment. They just unruly got up and walked out while the member of the 3rd District was in the middle of his presentation. They unruly walked out while the House was in session. Let me explain. In order for the House of Assembly to be in session, you need a minimum of 7 members present at the time. This 7 members is what you need to form a quorum. Less than 7 members, the House cannot do the people's business. So in my book, they abdicated their responsibilities to do the people's business. In my book, they give up the government. With the 7 members, without the 7 members, the House cannot do the people's business, as I stated. With the government walking out, left only 4 opposition members. And I must say, as for me, I know I was stunned. And with the 4 members, this caused the House, with only 4 members in the opposition present, this caused the House of Assembly's proceeding to come to an abrupt halt. This unruly action by the NDP administration is further compounded in that they walked out on Her Majesty the Queen, who was in place in the presence of the mace. The mace, once in place in the House of Assembly, symbolizes the presence of Her Majesty. What kind of message is this administration sending to the youth of this territory that they claim they love so much? Can you imagine, to break it down as simple as you can, that a teacher is teaching a lesson in a classroom, and during such time more than half of the class walks out of the classroom without permission from the relevant authority, teacher or otherwise? These students will be disciplined and made to apologize. Hence, we are calling on this administration to apologize forthwith publicly to Her Majesty. Hence, we are calling on this administration to apologize forthwith publicly to the Speaker of the House of Assembly. Hence, we are calling on this administration to apologize forthwith publicly to the House of Assembly. Hence, we are calling on this administration to apologize forthwith publicly to the people of this territory, because they abdicated their responsibilities to do the work of the people by walking out. In my research to date, I cannot find where a government walked out of the House of Assembly. The opposition, yes, but never a government. We also call on the Speaker to address this unruly behavior displayed in the House of Assembly. This unruly behavior cannot, and I repeat, cannot go unnoticed nor unaddressed. And the government cannot play with our intelligence to tell us they left to discuss. This is unbecoming behavior for a government, especially a government who is claiming that they are trying to cultivate a culture of excellence. They must publicly apologize forthwith for unceremoniously walking out of the House, thereby through their actions creating a culture of disrespect. We have many more concerns with the current economy, as stated by Honorable Fraser. No one should expect the government to do all, but we expect them to play their part well in working towards improving the economy of this territory. Banks are foreclosing in record numbers on homes. We call on this government to come up with a code of ethics for the banks and to move forthwith with the financial services to come up with regulations and new policies to help protect our people from some of the banks, and I say some, that are not working with our people during this economic hardship. Everywhere else in the world this is happening, and we must move forthwith to do so. I applaud our efforts in the past and even now to protect our financial services locally and internationally. But we also must exert that kind of effort locally to protect our people from the same financial institutions. Banks are foreclosing a record number on persons' property. Increasing number of persons are behind with their commitments to the bank, among others, mainly due to many unexpected shifts in our economy. Some of them have lost their jobs. And the rate in which our people are losing their jobs in this territory is alarming given our population. This is indeed a crisis that must be met head-on. And saving homes, saving families must be of paramount importance to this administration. Families are hurting, and all this and more usually result in an increase in crime. We do not want this, but this is the reality. The government continues to claim that we need to have patience with them because they claim that they met the cupboard bare. But their actions do not reflect this. One of the charges laid against the administration is conflict of interest. And I stated this very profoundly. And as usual, the government in their response did not respond to the charges laid. I stated to them clearly that one of the actions of concern is their conflict of interest being involved in certain investments and investment groups. I want to state clearly, I'm 100% supporter of all investment groups in this territory. I support the BVI Investment Group and each and every investment group in this territory. They are needed, and I applaud their efforts. However, it is clear that during 2011, in the newspapers, two of the members clearly stated that, who are ministers now, clearly stated that they have shares in the BVI Investment Group and other companies under the group. I by no means want to stop anyone from making their living otherwise, or even stop their families. However, when you become a minister and you're in a position to influence decisions, and the appearance is there that these decisions are being made in favor of the group that you are known to be in, and those who are not in it, some of them are founding members, then this raises red flags. One of the concerns I raised is the Ocean Convergence case many years ago against the government, where government won wrong one in the courts. Ocean Convergence appealed the case and they won wrong two. And the courts awarded them $11 million. All of this is fine. Whatever is due to them, give to them. However, you as a government, your first call of duty is to protect the public purse. And it would have taken nothing out of this administration, who is in place now with the ruling coming down, to say, given that the appearance is there, and so the facts are there that some of them are still in the group, let us carry this case to the Privy Council. Since 1-1 wrong 1, 1-1 wrong 2, let us carry it to the Privy Council, and then let us see what the Privy Council says. Who knows? The Privy Council might have ruled that we do not have to pay the $11 million. Who knows? The Privy Council might have ruled that we do have to pay the $11 million. But the government of the day, who have the authority to ask and request and insist that it go to the Privy Council, did not do so. It begs the question out loud. Why wasn't this course of action taken? Could it be because of the shares they benefited? This is a question that will be asked by anyone who have any basic common sense. And these are the concerns that we have. This conflict of interest now allows them to benefit from their decisions in groups where they have interests. On top of that, we also see that the plant in Barros Bay was turned over to the Ocean Convergence. Do I think that Ocean Convergence is capable of running it? Yes. Do I have any qualms with them running it? No. But my concern is when you have the sitting government ignoring the protocols that they have signed and turn over the plant without any tendering process, which the ball game, the rules have changed since the protocols have signed, and did not allow for any tendering, and turn the plant over to a group where they have interest. Would this same actions be done if it were other investment clubs where they didn't have interest? These are questions that you would have to ask. And monthly, the government pays to have the plant run. The question is now, who is benefiting from those dividends? So this begs the question that while the economy is experiencing hardship, we question the benefits received by this administration due to conflict of interest, because they can tell us have patience, because they don't need patience based on what we are seeing. So what we are really seeing is a set of full belly telling a set of hungry belly, keep faith. And if we as elected officials see these things and cannot bring them to the forefront, then we would have failed in our duty as elected representatives. And there are many other areas of conflict of interest with this administration that comes into question. It is clear that as elected officials, I want to make it clear that we do support that our port need to be developed. We differ in the way that this current administration is going about it. But to say that the opposition is against the port development, that is as far from the truth is as heaven is from hell. But I want to say clearly that there are enough events surrounding the port thus far that Honorable Fraser has named, and I've also named in the House of Assembly, that raises many red flags. It raises many concerns. It has violated the protocol, and we are concerned. And we are concerned with these flags that have been raised, that someone has to look into them. And that's why we have named that we will be moving towards the governor to request the commission of inquiry around the events surrounding how this project has come about and continues to move about. It would be irresponsible of us to do otherwise. We have named many areas during our presentation that have us concerned, because they are saying if they violated anything, the UK would have told them. I don't see it that way. I see it very clear that the UK would sit right there, see it happening, and when the time is right, all they have to do is move in. But we do not want this action to happen to our territory. And for anyone out in the public to say all 13 members sat there and not one opened their mouth. These issues are larger than a political party. Whether it be Virginia's party is larger than trying to shift the attention to who's fighting for leadership. I am not in any fight for anyone, nor is Honorable Fraser for any leadership. We're here to do the people's business, and there's room for concern. And there are many other areas. So we as elected officials bring these to your attention. We have concerns which we will take up in the House of Assembly about the company that has been used to do the forensic audit, which is the same company that has been used to help evaluate the port's tender, being PwC. But we'll take that up in the House of Assembly, because those concerns must be raised, and we'll raise them in that forum at a later date. So we are saying that we applaud the work of the government in many respects, but doing some good and doing major bad always adds up to trouble for the territory. And this is what we put to the table for this press conference with our concerns in many respects. We are also saying to you, in the closing for my remarks, the hospital project, I call it the Eternity Project. It is no doubt in my mind that it was irresponsible of the 2007 NDP administration to sign a project that everyone knew was over $100 million and sign it for $65 million and only secured just over $35 million in loan from Social Security. You do not need a light to see that someone had to continue to pay for this project until the Banco Popular loan was realized, which was not realized till a few years later because of all the commitments and all that was required of the government to secure this loan. The Treasury carried the load. That is where the money went. And now the project is over $100 million. Some say that it has gone over. It hasn't gone over. It has reached its true cost. And most of the other tenderers were within that range. And now that it has reached its true cost, the monies that were taken from the Treasury, we have asked in the House of Assembly to prove to us that they were put back into the Treasury when the loan was had, and they cannot prove that because the bank refused to give the loan to put it into the consolidated fund because the loan was for the hospital or is for the hospital. In addition, the loan money could not go back into the consolidated fund because the project ended up costing so much money that the money had to go directly towards the project. This does not include the equipment. This does not include the staffing. It was a good intention, and we know what they say about good intention. The road to hell is paved with it. It was not costed properly. It was not forecasted properly. And these problems is what creates some of the financial strain that they continue to refuse to tell the people about because they don't agree. But figures do not need your agreement. This has created problem on the consolidated fund. It created where the Treasury had to be gasping for air because the money was going towards the construction of the hospital project that was signed from 2007. And we stand by this, and we have enough proof to prove these things. So now I'd like to open the floor for all of you in an organized manner to ask your questions of either Honorable Fraser or myself.
There's a question from Gordon French, Levi Platinum. He said you weren't opposed to opposing SILK, right? I wonder why we've not heard so many solutions, or are you not reaching out to government to offer solutions at this point in time?
Well, for me, that's easy, if I may, Honorable Fraser. We have been in the House giving the government solutions. We have named solutions in many respects. Even with the bank, you just heard me say some solutions with the bank. We have even named solutions with the Tortola Pier project, what they say that they're doing, that on the land-based section, if they so believe in the locals with investment, then get the small business bureau that they're so much bragging on that they have not funded, and give out some loans to how many vendors that you need, given the design that you want to see, and have your people invested there rather than giving it away to the investor that is coming in so it can fit within the whole scheme of the design. That and many more we have brought to the table. But the government's intention is never to look like they're taking anything from the opposition. So we have reached to the point where since you won't take our advice, then we have to highlight the sections that is concerning us that generations to come will pay for.
Let me address that. I don't think it's fair for someone to say that the opposition has offered no solutions. From the get, once the Premier has established his position that he is going to revive the economy through austerity, I told him that's not going to work. The model hasn't worked in Europe. It's not going to work here either. And he has had several months now to have realized that. He still hasn't changed. My position still remains the same. We've been doing it when we were in the government. We injected money into the economy. I had an experience brought to me some days ago that I didn't even think about. An excavator operator said to me, he said, listen, I got a job to operate my excavator. I get $800 a day. And do you know that when I take that excavator out, the bucket breaks, I have to bring in the welder. He said a hose break, I have to get gases to fix that hose. He said I have to buy fuel at $150 a day. And then there's an operator. So I had never thought about the ripples when you put money in the economy. Everybody looks around and see the machine working every day. And they said, this guy's making money. They don't look around and see who else is making money. And that's where this government has fallen. They never believed in the petty contract system, which is a child of the Virgin Islands Party. And it's all to stimulate the economy. You look around today and see what's happening. So don't say that we haven't offered any solutions. We have offered many. To tell me that in these crucial economic times, this government is going to impose taxes on citizens to travel to St. Thomas on the ferry. This is no time for taxes. These are not time for taxes. Whatever government you are, you have to reach down deep and realize that taxes do in fact hurt people. People who has extra fat, yes, you tax them. But this is not the time. Raising fees and everything, this is not the time. Government can do better, and they should do better, and we're going to hold them to that.
Minister Fraser, Sean Rose, JTV. Honorable Fraser. You're calling for fiscal injection in the economy. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
And the Minister of Communications and Works, Mark Van Poel, just recently said that they are hoping to inject some over $300 million in the economy over the next 3 years. Do you see this as a light at the end of the tunnel?
Did he tell you where it's coming from? Did he tell you? I heard him talking about refinancing or debt, consolidating the loan. Consolidating the loan is simple to say. I've been hearing that now. We heard that during the 2012 budget address statement. But in order for you to consolidate that loan, you got to go to the banks that are now giving you credit to tell them, hey, listen, partner, we're no longer interested in doing business with you. We're going to Bank A. Now, is Bank A going to consolidate your debt for you? Are you in a position to get that kind of consolidation? You can't leverage it. Had we done our homework and do what we were supposed to do, we would have been floating bonds. And the average man on the street will be able to buy those bonds so we can consolidate the $100 million debt that we have. So it's all talk. Where is he getting that $300,000 from? I tell you, we cannot borrow money right now without permission from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. We are in so much, our breach of the borrowing guidelines is so thick that it's senseless trying to go to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and ask them to permission to borrow money.
I'll add this though, with the debt, the public debt is up to 113 million plus. And of that public debt, the reason that it keep happening on the hospital, which they continue to ignore, the hospital loan is 83.73% of the public debt. A project that was not properly thought out from 2007 has come back to haunt us. But this is a topic that they continue to avoid speaking about. That is what has created a lot of the issues around us being able to borrow, because our public debt is at 113 million and change.
Zan Lewis, ZBP Radio. So Fraser, Mr. Foy, where are the other members of the opposition? Were they told of this press conference?
Well, I didn't arrange the press conference as it is right now. We had someone arrange it for us. But I know I spoke to... The press conference was for us to elucidate the debate that we had in the House of Assembly. Member for the 1st District and myself, we spoke extensively on the motion, and the member for the 2nd District. I contacted the member for the 2nd District. I got him, and he said that he had a court appearance today, and he couldn't make it. He might just show up at any time now. And that's the extent. It was for us to elucidate the debate that we had in the House of Assembly. And only 3 of us debated. Only the three of us debated the motion in the House of Assembly.
The leader of the opposition was not informed.
I don't know about that.
I'm asking, did any of you inform the leader of the opposition of this press conference?
Well, that's easy to answer, Zan. The reason that we hold a press conference is to clarify our positions that were debated during the time.
All the people who needed to be informed.
All those who debated was our aim. And we said that respectfully because we do not agree legally with the position that the Speaker of the House has taken, that the leader of the opposition was the one to bring the motion according to the Erskine May. And I'm going to state why. It goes against the very rule of the Speaker, because in order to get the motion on the agenda, the Speaker had to agree. The standing orders clearly states that any member can bring any motion to the House of Assembly. The only thing that the Erskine May does is where all standing orders and all laws are silent. That is where that speaks. Our laws are not silent in that respect. We understand that the pressure come on the Speaker afterward caused her to probably move in that direction. This is how we see it. But we know for sure that the standing order is abundantly clear, and Erskine May only speaks when any issue comes up where our standing order is silent. Our standing orders are not silent when it comes to motions to the House.
Honorable, but it may strike some folks as odd that for the first time, as far as one can recall, that a member of the opposition and not the leader is bringing the motion, and the leader isn't saying anything in relation to this motion, not present here today. Is this an indication that the leader of the opposition is not in support of the motion?
But that's not something that we're focusing on, because it's not an issue for us. You see, the reason you're asking about that is that the government machinery is trying to make that an issue so we could shift off the real issues of the territory. But at the end of the day, whether I, the leader, or whoever, supports or supports not, how is that helping the person who can't meet the bank? How is that helping the person who can't feed their family? How is that helping the people from Morins that got fired? How is that helping the people from CCT that got fired? How is that helping the people from Lime that got fired? How is it helping the people from Long Bay that got fired and don't know where they're going and still have to pay their mortgage, still have to send their children to school? We have real issues. The party politics gonna take care of itself. But we as elected officials will be abdicating our responsibility if we do not speak up for the people of this territory and hold this government accountable. This government, I stated before, continues to display a political bullying type attitude. And last I checked, the best way to deal with a bully is to come face to face and deal with them face up. Respectfully. We're not going to do it disrespectfully, but we're going to do it respectfully. They're not going to paint everyone as bad and they as good when we know that what they're telling us and what we are feeling are two different things. Telling us is good and we're not feeling good is not good. You're going to tell me that this current administration is telling us that the port deal is so good for us that they can't tell us about it. How can something be so good for me that you can't tell me about it, but you're using my land and you're using my money in terms of a taxpayer? These are things we have to hold them accountable for, and we're going to do it as elected officials, and we'll not be derailed.
I don't understand.
Let me just clear something up. This is not the first time the honorable member for the 1st District and I have held a press conference. We've done this during the administration of 2003, 2007, and I guarantee you, and I promise you by telling you that this is not going to be the last time you're going to see two of us behind two mics, more mics. So get used to it.
I don't understand. You making mention of it.
Ron Henry, organized news online. You've consistently stated, Honorable Foy, that there is no leadership struggle within the party. Right. It's clearly evident that the opposition leader is absent here. Honorable Fraser has stated in his remarks that essentially when the Premier speaks, it sends a different message. Isn't it the same thing that applies within the Gordon Allen's party now? In this instance, when the opposition leader is not speaking on such an important motion as put forward here?
Well, I'll put it to you. This way: the premier of a country cannot ever be on the same level as the leader of the opposition. That's a totally different a horse, a totally different brand. And in addition to that, remember, even in the government, each one of us have been elected by a constituency. We have a responsibility first to our first boss, which is the area that elected us. On top of that, once we are elected, we not only look out for them alone, we have to look out for the entire territory. So if my people are coming to me with issues, and some of these very issues they are coming to us with all the time, I have a duty to come to the House of Assembly respectfully. Even if Honorable Fraser, standing on my left, doesn't agree, I have to come say what my bosses send me to say. And I think that we got caught up so much with just the political assembling of parties that we forget that the voice of the people in any territory is the voice of God. And the people are crying out, and we must represent them. And even although we're here in the minority, we're not phased. I want to state emphatically, I will be in no struggle with no one. Whoever the party's constitution chooses, once you're a Bosnian party member, you have to continue with what it has done. I don't believe in jumping off a ship when there are problems. All my life I've been faithful to anything that I've done through thick and thin. And now is not a time to jump off ship because it seems to some that there are problems. We know for sure that the government has just as much problems, but they're better at hiding. But anytime you have a group of individuals with different mindsets, different ideas, different ideologies, different philosophies coming together, you're always going to have some issues. But it's up to you to be mature enough to deal with it. And that's what we're doing here, representing the people. And that's what we're going to do with the issues using the Constitution with the Bosnians Party. There's absolutely no problem. And I do not allow this to shift us from the main thing, which are the issues of this territory.
You continue to say that there's no problem, but there is a problem. There is a 4C problem. There is a 4C problem with us and members of the public. There was a motion. The leader of the opposition was not there. The other person, he was not in the house. The other person abstained from voting. You have a press conference today. They are not here. The leader of the opposition was not informed.
Right.
You're telling me that is not the issue and that is not your focusing on.
Right.
And you continue to say there's no problem. What it looks like, there are two disgruntled persons in the opposition, but who continue to express their concern. Really, yes, you talk about the problems in government, but there are problems. But what it looks to the people, there are two disgruntled people in the opposition who are just speaking and have no support of the other two. So I just can't understand when you say there's no problem.
Mr. Madu, you had a question.
But before Mr. Madu, I want to answer, and I don't want to leave you there. When you say the people are speaking, I always get amazed in this country when you say the people are speaking, everybody saying. Everybody means everybody, and the people will mean everybody's. And nobody has any disgruntled issues in the opposition that would stop them from representing the people. The issues that you are raising is one that we see as no problem at all, because we will continue to represent. We will continue to bring the issues to the forefront. And whatever issues that there are in terms of political party, I didn't say that there are none. I said that whatever issues there are politically, the Constitution of the Bosnians Party is more than adequate to handle it all. So I don't see these as any issues. And for sure, when this press conference is done and our phone continues to ring with the issues of this territory, they frankly don't care who want to support or don't want to support. They're looking for solutions for the problems of this territory. And with the solution to the problem of the territory, we have to make sure that we find them. And if we don't hold the government accountable and make sure that some of these things are nipped in the bud from this stage, we'll be paying it for it years to come, because the protocols change the rules of the game. They signed them. They're the ones who told us that they negotiated the document, and they had the head of the overseas territory gentleman at the time eating out of the palm of their hand. When you have someone eating out of the palm of your hand, that means whatever you want, you got. You received it. Now that you receive it, then abide by it and stop walking ignoring it.
Mr. Madu.
Mr. Madu.
Honorable members, is an apology from the government, is it enough based on what they have done in terms of walking out from the house? Had they abandoned the government? And I'm wondering and I'm asking you, is an apology enough, or does the people of the British Virgin Islands, through its representatives, need to address Her Majesty's government as to what is the right position to take in this respect? These people have taken an oath. These people represent the people. And I want to say, it is my understanding clearly from the Constitution that any member in that house could move a vote of no confidence. So I want to know, have we taken enough steps in making sure that our government are carrying out their responsibilities? Don't forget, in years gone by, centuries gone by, when a head of state abandoned the throne, the people took over, and they're going to follow.
Well, I'll take the first part, and Honorable Fraser will take the second. I will say this. Why, Mr. Madu, your question is well in place and timely. Apology for us is the first step. The people will have to say the rest. But that's what's amazing about the events surrounding this motion of no confidence. The government is trying to get persons to concentrate on whether the leader moved it or what was happening on the other side. and you have something as blatant, that's what I thought Zan would have brought up, as blatant as people walked out of the house while this was going on. And so that should be a focus point, along with other focus points, on how could mature individuals, duly elected by the people, abdicated their responsibilities while the mace was still there, the speaker is still there, the member is in the middle of his presentation, and then come to give a statement that they left to do discussions without being given the proper authority to leave the House. Because if all of them had announced that they were leaving the House, the speaker would have told them before they leave, according to the rules, we'll have to take a 5-minute recess because the members want to do a caucus. That is what would have happened. This, to me, is more glaring of disrespect and worthy of notary than whether the leader of the opposition or any member had supported the motion, moved the motion, or whatever the case may be. These are real issues. And if we leave little behaviors, this is not little, continue to get away. What really the government was saying, let me tell you what they were saying. Listen to me, fellows. Let's say it in Lebanon language. I don't care what y'all are saying. I don't want to be a part of it. I gone. Let's say it in our language. I gone. I don't care what y'all are saying. And if anytime we don't care what you're saying, we gone. How could this be creating a culture of excellence? That's creating a culture of disrespect. Honorable Fraser, answer the other part.
Yeah, on the issue of who can move a motion, the standing orders of a House that we are members of, Section 30, subsection 1 states, subject to the Virgin Islands Constitution Order. This one said 1976 because we haven't revised our standing orders, but that would be 2007. And to the standing orders, it shall be competent for any member to propose by way of motion any matter of the council, any matter for debate in the council. When you go to the Constitution, Constitution states under section 78, subsection 1, subject to this Constitution and the standing orders of the House of Assembly, any member may introduce any bill or propose any motion for debate or may present any petition to the House of Assembly, and the same shall be debated and disposed of according to the standing orders of the House. Now, in reaching, people go on and reach. You know, the government, every member got up, the ministers, they got up and they started their thing about who should have brought the motion and who shouldn't have brought the motion and what have you. And, you know, the speaker gone and she made a ruling after the fact, of course, for the next motion of no confidence. I don't know when that's going to be, but this one was done. For the next one, under section 91 of the same standing orders, I can't find it now. No, it's 91. Yes, under 91 of the same standing orders, went on and read 91 subsection 1. In any matter not hearing provided for, resort shall be had to the usage and practices of the Common House of Parliament of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which shall be followed as far as the same may be applicable to the Council, and not consistent with these standing orders, nor with the practices of this Council. All standing orders are not, one second, not inconsistent with these standing orders, nor with the practices of this Council. All standing orders are not silent. They speak and they speak loud. The Constitution speaks and it speaks loud. But then she goes on to part 2 of the same section and read that. In case of doubt, the standing orders of this Council shall be interpreted in the light of the relevant usage and practices of the House of Commons. What doubt there is? What doubt there is? I don't want to get into anything real down and dirty with the Speaker, because it's not necessary. And I think that people, the media itself, I mean, you should be seeing what this is saying and preach it to the people, not what the proponents of the government and those who wants to see discord and dissension are preaching. This is the Bible. This is what we go by.
Mr. Fraser, Honorable Fraser, I still, the one part, I think it was mentioned earlier, has not the government of the day abandoned its position?
That's Mr. Fowler.
Well, my opinion, once you leave your government post, you abandon your position. That's how I see. But yes, sir, from BVI News.
Okay, I'm seeking your personal opinion based on the question I'm about to ask.
About what?
The question I'm about to ask.
Oh, the question is about that.
Not about what the Constitution is saying, not about what the delegates of the party will vote. Personally, would you be happy heading into the next election with Honorable O'Neill as leader of the party? Personally.
This is not anything to be personal about. This is a very simple thing. The Virgin Islands Party has a process through the Constitution. That is like you trying to tell me the makeup of the government before the election is finished. I don't know what that will be. The process is there, and whatever the process brings out that the Constitution outlines, once you're a member of the Virgin Islands Party, you have to abide by it. You can't have a constitution, then saying what you want, and then hope that it comes that, and if it doesn't come that, then you're saying you're not happy.
But you're governed by your own conscience. But despite the Constitution, how do you feel? What is your conscience telling you?
My conscience tells me that the banks need to work better with the people. No, but until the government puts in some code of ethics for the banks and make sure that it operates that way, it will not happen. So my conscience tells me a lot of things, but what is written needs to support what my conscience says.
What is so funny is that everybody seems to have this perception out there, and everybody seems to have this problem. One reporter even referred to us as two disgruntled members of the House of Assembly. What opportunity to do what? I mean, Mr. Foy and myself, we're going about doing our work. When we set out to do our work, we look between the covers of those documents that I just referred to, and we develop whatever we have to present. We're going to have a series of questions. We're going to have more. There will be more motions in the House of Assembly. Trust me, there will be more. He has one on the table. I have some coming. And it has nothing to do with anything. We have a job to do.
Well, let me ask you a question then. If we did nothing with all that is happening, let me ask you in the media. If we did nothing with all that is happening, how would you perceive us?
One governor said something.
The follow-up question I have though is, forget about the next election. How do you see the leadership of Honorable O'Neill at this time? Is he an effective leader?
Leader of what? The leadership of what?
Honorable O'Neill, as leader of the party and the opposition.
Well, you see, again, we agreed for Mr. O'Neill at this time to have been leader. So it's something that we agreed for, given the time. So it's nothing for us to be evaluating him in terms of his leadership. If you agreed to something for the time, why should you go back and get into that? I don't get into those conversations because those conversations they're distractors.
It's not a public conversation.
I maintain what I say. And let me explain something. The Congress is not just Honorable Fraser and Honorable Foy. It's an august body that has to decide those things. So I can't preempt a Congress. I don't know what they will do, what they won't do, but I know as long as you're a Virgin Islands Party member, you have to abide by what you put in place. We all voted for the Constitution.
Gentlemen.
So I want to stay focused on the issues. That will take care of itself, I guarantee.
You're not prepared to say that your leader is an effective leader?
My leader is a good leader. I have a lot of respect for him. And the Constitution will take care of itself for the Virgin Islands Party.
Gentlemen, the role of the opposition is to try to get into government. And the role of the government is to keep out the opposition. Good. Judging from the way how things going now, right, in relation to both of you basically holding one head in the opposition. The leader of the opposition from what has been happening has not been a part of what you all have been doing. He has indicated that. He has shown it. The other person has demonstrated it by saying, I do not support the movement, the motion. By what you all are doing, as an opposition, you think it, by both of you, will help you to get in? Because what you all are doing as an opposition is showing that sense of disunity. And Mr. Fraser, you talk about unison just now, the importance of unity. There's no unity in the opposition. With what's happening now, will it help you to get in or probably keep you out more?
Well, I know for sure one thing. not representing the people and their concerns, we won't have to
You're
worry.
straying from the topic, Mr.
No, you can't ask a
Boyd.
question and get an answer.
You're straying. Both of you are
Not
straying
doing-
from the topic.
No,
You
you-
asked for your,
No.
the other reporter asked just now. with
No,
your-
Zan, hold.
your
You can't.
finish.
No, you
The other
can't
person
dictate the
asked-
press conference. You know.
No, the other person asked a while ago as a conscience.
Yeah.
Speak your conscience. And you continue to stifle your conscience. You're not speaking what I believe, what the conscience is saying. Your conscience probably want to tell you something, and you're stifling it. You're avoiding it from coming out.
You mean you're that big that you could think for both of us? You are. You talk about disunity. Look, two of us here standing right here. You talk about disunity.
But Zan, you're looking at an isolated case because. No, Zan, I want to state that you're emphatically incorrect. You're looking at the vote of no confidence motion, and you want to dictate the whole life of the opposition from the one motion. But what about the many other motions that we have all voted together for? You see, the emphasis is placed on this motion because it directly tackles the government. So I would understand some of you all concerned of keeping the emphasis on them. But really and truly, all topics that we have brought up are ones that we believe in based on what we have seen with the evidence. And I am telling you, while we are here discussing these or trying to get us to say what you want us to say, it does not change the fact that the economy needs looking at. It does not change the fact of the conflict of interest of the government. It does not change the fact that they are set of full belly, telling us sell to empty ones, keep faith. We need to address that. So
Okay,
that
that's it. Those are enough questions on the question of leadership of the
Yeah.
party. This is not a party press conference.
Yeah.
We're closing this off now.
May I
This is
revisit
not
the
a party
protocols
discussion.
because we haven't had a chance to discuss that to get your views on that. Thank you very much. In relation to the protocols, Honorable Fraser, I'm looking at the document now on the PDF format, and I am seeing that the government of the Virgin Islands has an opportunity to remedy a breach within 3 fiscal years from the point at which a breach may have occurred unless the Secretary of State gives express written permission. And I heard the government opposing your allegations of a breach.
You sure it says from the point at which a breach may have occurred?
That's what I read.
No, you sure that's what it said?
According to the PDF format.
The only breach they have 3 years to remedy is the standing one, the one that they met. That's the one that deals with liquid assets. That's a standing breach. They have up until 2015 to remedy that one. And I'm talking about violations. I'm not talking about breaches. Violations of the protocol. A breach is when you're not in concert with the formula. The formula here is dealing with net debt, which is supposed to be 80% maximum of recurrent revenue, debt service, which is 10% of maximum of recurrent revenue, and liquid assets. If any of these 3 formulas are not met, then you are in breach. But when you violate is when you don't do the things about tendering and procurement, transparency issues, and those things.
And it is in that case where the government should submit a medium-term financial plan.
Fiscal plan.
Yes, for consideration from the UK government if such a violation occurs.
Right.
Yes. So how do you see that versus what the government has been saying, basically that they are not in violation and things are
Well,
under control?
You know, you catch a rat in a trap, you keep saying teamy, teamy. Well, when you look at it, his tail is hooked in the trap. They're in violation. And now it's up to the FCO now to decide what to do with them.
So you're saying that we are likely to hear from the FCO very soon that this country...
I'll be surprised if you don't, because the FCO is supposed to be keeping us real.
But I want to add this though to Honorable Fraser. I agree with the point that he's making. But I want to add this. For borrowing, Honorable Fraser stated clearly that you only could borrow 80% of your recurrent, your maximum of recurrent revenue. So that's the only way it could be a net debt. Meaning that if our budget is $300 million, the max that we can borrow is $240 million. But you have to take away from the $240 million your current public debt. Your current public debt is $113 million and change. which roughly means if you call it say 120 million is probably what you have left, a little more to borrow. Now, why we are saying that they need to come clean and tell the people what is happening. Whatever you're going to borrow, you only could borrow up to $120 million plus more. So when the Honorable Minister of Education and Work says that he's going to put $300 million from, I guess, borrowing into the economy, when you add on the 300 million to the 113 plus million dollars already public debt, you're outside. You're $400 million. You're already outside your limit. When you add on the airport for the 377 million plus to the 100 million, you're already outside. When you add on even to the ports project for the $100 million, you're already outside the amount that's allowed. So they are playing for the public crowd with those kind of talks that they're talking. But in their conscience, Zan is talking about conscience, I know that they're saying those things just for the camera. But when they get off the camera, in their conscience, they know that they're in violation.
Pardon me, for clarity, because I too am not in favor of generalizations. You indicated that the Cruise Pay Development Project will be a government loan, but I understand it to be private investment.
No, the protocol speaks specifically the public-private partnership is treated the same way.
The same as public borrowing.
The same as public borrowing, according to the protocol that they signed. Yes, love.
Yes. Malika McPherson, the Allen Sun. When you took the motion on the Fraser and during the government's debate part of it, they called it as premature, in other words, and they said that it was uncalled for, and one even stated that you would have gotten the same discussion if you had picked up one of the reports that were tabled and called for a public debate of it. Do you agree?
Absolutely not. No, not at all. Not at all. It's well within our right to do what we did, and we did it. No one can dictate from the government side what the opposition should do and should not do.
What they're saying as well is that why they said it's premature is because you didn't give the government enough time. They just got in and they have some problems to remedy. Here you are.
I wonder how much time they gave us when they brought their motion of confidence against us. I wonder.
But I'll say this, I need to add this. They had more than enough time. They had enough time to pay out $11 million to the investment club. They had enough time to pay out a 10-year-old bill to the airport. They had enough time to get Georgie Hill from 300,000 up to $1 million and change. They had enough time to get Craft Alive almost up to $2 million. They had enough time to do a lot of things. So really and truly, it doesn't take long to spend the government money. So it shouldn't take them long to answer for it.
So do you?
And I'd like to add this. Which report would we have used that they have provided so that we could have debated? Would it be the PwC report, a company that they hired to do a report with a specific time frame, which we have red flags over the company? Is that the one we're supposed to use?
Well, I'm sure you were there when one of them.
Yeah, but they didn't say which one we should use.
Oh, so you did hear the comment, and you said that you could have called for a debate of the issues, and you would have gotten the same kind of discussion, not to bring.
In their view.
Well, you heard him, and he said not to come and bring a no confidence.
With all the questions that we've been asking in the House of Assembly and can't get answers, all the reports that we've asked them to present us with, you believe them?
Well, I'm just asking.
No, I agree. And we also asked for the audited report that the Auditor General did on the ports project that up to this day has not been made public, and we understand it is not in a positive light.
Honorable Foy, you've made serious
Three more questions after him and then that's it.
Regarding conflict of interest on the part of the government.
Yeah.
And you single out two members of the government who are in this position.
Yeah.
But one member in particular, the Deputy Premier, has stood up and said in no uncertain terms that he is a member of the BVI Investment Club and has no apologies whatsoever for having shares. What can be done under the circumstances from the position of the opposition, and what, more importantly, what will be done given what he has stated?
Well, we'll have some time to think about that, but remember a few days before the Premier said on their radio show that absolutely no member of his government has any shares in the BVI Investment Club. That was clear. And in CCT board 4 and all of them, that was clear. And when the member got up, I don't know if he was at the radio show tonight. I know he was not there when I was doing my presentation, so he probably did not hear. He came in during when I was finishing. So when he got up and confirmed that he had shares, I guess that puts into question. Yeah, I would go and say the Premier needs to go back to the talk show and apologize for the misinformation.
Since you're on this side of the aisle. I just want to know, basically you were saying that you brought the motion of no confidence because you felt you were obligated to the people. Are those who are not supportive of the motion neglecting the obligation to the people?
No, I wouldn't say that they're neglecting obligation to the people. In everything, there are persons who have their own views. You have to respect that. This is the way that we feel, and we move in that direction. And while we might not agree with persons who disagree, it's a democratic society we're in. We're not going to behave like the government. We respect those who don't believe in what we believe in. But all I can say is, whoever is right or wrong will only be determined with time.
In relation to the motion.
I have a question.
And then Zan.
Yes, Honorable Foy. You called for a code of ethics to govern the banks. Do you think the banks are unethical, and what grounds would the code cover?
Well, remember, when you talk about code of ethics, you're not saying that the banks are totally unethical. You're just making sure that you put parameters in place to protect your people and protect the citizens from misuse of the bank's authority, which is everywhere else in the world. I want to state that there are some banks in this territory that are truly working diligently to help the people during this time. But it should not be up to the individuals in the bank trying to do that. There must be set policies and standards that have them to adjust given the economic situation. Right next door in St. Thomas, they have already done certain stimulus packages based on the economic situation. In America, they have done that. All through the world, they have done that. The banks make their money on the interest. They make their money on us. No matter what they say, if we don't bank, they can't make their money. So at the end of the day, the customer's satisfaction is important. I'm not saying that some people are not out of the way delinquent on their own, but a lot of persons have been hit with this economic downturn, and they need to be given some incentives from the bank and some leeway to be able to stay current, or be able to get current, or be able to get over the hump that they're in, because some of them lost their jobs. It's going to take some time. So whether it have an unemployment package for them or whatever the case may be. You then, Mr. Madhu, then, yeah.
Yes, Honorable Fraser, you have talked about the tourist
questions,
board.
man.
Take us up on
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You have spoken about the tourist board and somebody being critical of it. Do you think the tourist board is doing a good job in terms of getting people here? And who were you quoting?
That was the management of Long Bay Hotel. They're the ones who made the statements. And
what's the source of the information?
Excuse me?
The source of the information.
Probably came from your newspaper, I think. That's where I got it from.
All right. Okay, and so what, do you think the tourist board is doing a good job?
Well, I could only go by the realities on the ground. The realities on the ground and the stories that are coming out saying that a person never heard about the Virgin Islands, and it needs some vigorous promotion. If I say anything, you would wonder, or the Premier himself would wonder, well, I'm being biased, but I'm not being biased in this issue.
But I'm going to organize now. You then Mr. Madhu, then you, and that's the final one. So let's be clear.
On the issue of contract splitting, I gathered a while ago that petty contracts are the brainchild of or the work of the Virgin Islands Party, if I may put it that way.
Yes.
And that the NDP government was never interested in them.
No.
Now they are more or less tagging your line by going the route of what you call contract splitting by issuing these petty contracts. Is this an indication that both governments are guilty of this practice?
No. You have to, let us be honest here. And I expect the media in particular to pay close attention to this whole thing. As of April 23rd, 2013, there's a paradigm shift. That's right. One of my friends, the word one of my friends used. The earth shifted. It was a defining moment. That's when they signed the protocols. The protocols specifically and categorically state that all projects must go through the tendering and procurement process. So if you're going to build this room and furnish it, and you're going to break it down into 4 little areas where John, Mary, and Tom, and also Peter can get a contract instead of giving the contract to Hassan to do the whole thing, that's contract splitting. And that was supposed to change on that date. Now, ordinarily this would not be a conversation at all, because we believe in spreading the wealth and all that good stuff. But those guys campaigned on that, and they won the hearts and soul of the people over. Now here we are telling them, you campaigned on it, it was wrong, it was bad, it's still wrong and bad as far as I'm concerned. Live up to it. And they can't do it. That's why I oppose the protocols. I knew that the protocols were bad for the territory. I knew it. I still feel so. But they insist that, hey, listen, this is the best thing since sliced bread. This is our deal. We had Bellingham eating out the palm of our hands when we signed it. So we're gonna do it. The two of us are gonna hold the government to their feet to the fire when it comes to the protocol from now until.
In relation to the claim of the walkout by the government, and you call on the government to apologize, you call on the speaker to apologize, and you say not going to remain silent, you're going to keep them on the toes, keep them on fire. Will the opposition go thus far, or both of you, to stay out of the opposition, stay out of the house until the matter is addressed? And second, would you call on the Dr. Pickering to declare his dividends as a result of his clear declaration that he's a proud member of the Diva Investment Club?
Well, let me answer the last one first. You don't have to ask somebody to do something what I already did. That's one. So that's clear. The second part is, if the two of us go do that, then you really call us disgruntled. So I would say that the best thing for us to do is just go in and demand it on behalf of the people, the territory, the house, and continue to demand of it. And if they refuse to do it, well, then that's up to the people. We only could do our part, but we don't have no intention of walking out. They'll welcome us walking out. I know the two of us.
Would you prepare to go thus far? Would you prepare to go thus far in the interest of getting your voice heard?
Well, I would say whatever needs to be done within a respectful manner, we're prepared to go to that limit. Yes. Mr.
You
Madu,
again?
Mr. Madu.
Yes.
Then,
Is there anything in the standing orders or the Constitution that prohibits, honorable phrase now, prohibited honorable phrase now, from reading the motion from paper?
Well, it is. Let me see. You know, we have customs, we have traditions, and then there are everything else. But customs and traditions are that you get up and you read. Customs and tradition.
I can't see a motion going to the House unless it's in black and white.
The whole thing happened.
So what's the big problem of reading from
Well,
paper?
I have no problems with that. They could impose a rule, insist on the rule, but all of us has to follow it. The same sitting one day earlier, that's what I did, and I came to the House prepared for that kind of objection. I knew it was coming.
As a follow-up question, can the standing orders deprive you of your constitutional rights?
No, it shouldn't.
The standing orders must be in accordance with the Constitution.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I found it to be a stupid question when they said that you can't read the motion from piece of paper.
Well, listen, I have absolutely no problems with the rules, but don't start with me. Don't start with me. If this is the rule, going forward, I knew that the motion was going to be contentious. I knew that they were going to challenge me every step of the way. They were going to try to disrupt me as many times as they can, and so they did, and I was prepared for it. The Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, he kept jumping up every time I said that they're in breach. It took until they got into debating where every other minister who got up acknowledged and admitted that they are in breach. Why he doesn't know it, I don't know. But they are in breach. And I said, if in order to get out of the breach, if you want to get out of this breach tomorrow, put $64 million in the reserve fund. You don't have to if you want to stay in breach, but if you want to get out, that's what you have. And he jumps up and he jumps up. But that's the plan. The plan was to rattle me.
that's for you, and I'll give you the point.
Honorable Foy, Just like you did in the House and you did today, you alluded to the unemployment situation. However, some opposition members claim that you were just making noise. In fact, a minister said that every time he sees rush hour traffic, he knows that what you're saying is not so. Do you recall that statement when he says when he comes out, he sees people driving in their cars and that means they're going to work, they're going somewhere?
Yes.
So are you still going to stick that people are as unemployed as you say when they're saying it's not so?
Well, that means that all of your media, what you've been reporting is a lie. Because
That's where we get the news.
that's where we get the news. Long Bay Hotel, how many people have been laid off? Lime, how many people have been laid off? Moorings, how many people have been laid off? CCT, how many people have been laid off? So for those that don't reach us and we get them from you, then he's calling the media houses liars.
But did you hear him?
But I heard him, but it is hard for you to look from your house and see a cab passing and decide that the person in it is going to work or coming from work. If he has that kind of ability, well, we need to use him to help solve this economic crisis much faster than we are going.
I have a very good scenario that's similar to that. If you're going to Seacoast Bay at 12 noon on a Saturday and you get caught behind a funeral, you can't do anything but wait. You got to drive in that line. But you're not going to the funeral. You can't say that a whole lot of people were at the funeral. So I don't know. We only have one road here in Tortola. You going east, you get stuck in traffic coming up, you got to stay in that traffic.
Honorable Fraser too. You also brought up the airlift situation in the House where you spoke about the American Eagles and you mentioned it again today. But yet it was pointed out that you were the Minister of Communications and you were given ample time to do something about it. And that was in response to where you said that the Premier should have made some kind of leeway.
We have to put things in perspective. I was the Minister for Communications and Works, but I was not responsible for airlift. Airlift was a responsibility that was taken by the Premier and Tourist Board. I dealt with LIAT and other airlines, but not America.
That's a question about
a
question about the airport. Mr. Fraser, you were one that was pursuing the airport project. What has changed since then? I was going to respond to the issue of concern raised by the government side during the debate that the Premier at the point in time had no confidence in his ministers, that he took contract signing away from the ministers.
I don't think anyone said that they took contract signing away from the ministers, because ministers never signed contracts under our administration. Never signed contracts under our administration.
And there was a vote of no confidence, basically, that's what they were saying. No confidence.
What we are here to do is to clear up those misconceptions. That's a bold fact, not true, untrue. We never signed contracts. Minister, you signed contracts? Okay. I never signed contracts. Now, as far as the airport is concerned, nothing has changed. Studies have been conducted and continue to have been conducted with the airport. It is up to this government to bring that information to the public, bring it to me. I don't have it. I need to see what's going on. As long as information is key. A lot of guys out that room kicking up and chahooing and complaining. You bring the guy in the room, you open the book and you show him a few things. You might see his name and then he goes on, quiet. Tell us what's going on. We don't know what's going on.
I'll add this for you for information's sake, because when you're finished speaking under the rules of the House, you don't get back up to speak. So they know that. So sometimes they're sneaking things that they say that we manipulated. When they talk about we were not signing contracts, ministers never sign contracts. But I'll tell you what I have seen during the question and answer and asking for contracts from this administration. Ministers are signing contracts, and I am seeing nowhere where the accounting officer, who is the permanent secretary on the contract, as the one being held liable. So that is something that our Auditor General will need to take up. Because if anything that comes into question now will be the current action of contract signing.
Let me ask this final question.
We're going this way, son.
Come
on, let's follow the protocol. Let's follow the
Go.
protocol.
Okay, go ahead.
You've said, both of you, that you've asked several times questions in the House of Assembly, they have not been answered.
Right.
You've now brought a motion of no confidence and this has been defeated. What avenue is now open to the opposition in terms of making the government more transparent, making them reveal reports that you've asked for time and again, and not getting them? What step will now be taken following this motion?
Thank you. There are no limits to our options. And I'm sure, given the creativity of the member for the 1st District, I'll be getting calls from him as to where we should go next and what we should do next. I may not agree to do it, but I'm sure there are no options. There are no limit to our options. And granted, the motion was voted down, but that's not the end. We will continue to pursue this government vis-a-vis the protocols, vis-a-vis the economy, and we will continue to do that. And rest assured, you got good representation here.
When you submit a motion of no confidence, I believe is that the opposition said, I can't take it no more. So you must come with a vote of no confidence. Let me finish, sir. I can't take it anymore. Come with a vote of no confidence against the government. Do you think, sir, as we move on the presenter, that motion was presented with the kind of strength, the kind of conviction, the kind of force, right, that is anticipated? I don't think so. What do you think?
There have been 12 motions of no confidence tabled and debated in this Caribbean area in the last 2 years or so. 12. And there will be more. So you can look at it from any angle you wish and come up with your conclusions. We know what we set out to do, and I am sure that we are convinced that we achieved it.
Are you in support of the...
I want to add to Zen's thing.
This will be my final question.
I want to add to Mr. Lewis.
Conviction was missing.
The conviction was not missing. The government have a way of trying to saturate the talking points on the street. But the truth don't need anybody belief. We're going to state the truth. Honorable Fraser's presentation was one of a technical nature. It was one that was highlighting the protocols, the sections, the constitution, and even sections of the standing order. It is not a glamorous one, as they say with the airport, that will make you go, wow. But the importance of what he was highlighting is understood by some of the government members very well. And the public, as they get to know the document, will understand the life of this territory with how business is being done changed when the protocols were signed. It behoves us all to start to become acquainted with what it says. Because when you read it and you understand what it says, which we'll do more sessions to help the public understand, he already moved a motion and we went to the House to debate it. The reason we keep happening on this is the life has changed with the way business will be done by government after the protocols have been signed. The problem we have is that the very government that signed them is ignoring the rules for the most part of the protocols, which means that you're putting us in an irrevocable position as a territory. And I don't know how much they study how the British operate, but if they have not, they need to study it. And then they'll understand that don't mistake the absence of noise in the forest for the lack of activities.
My final question today. Are you in support of merging the BVI Electricity Corporation with the Water and Sewage Department as proposed by the Minister of Communications and Works?
This is something I have to study because you see, I'm going to say something that's going to sound a little harsh. With the many concerns of conflict of interest that have been risen, I have to be concerned if this is being done for the right reasons. If they could prove that they're doing it for the right reasons, then I could start to consider it. And that is my answer as Andrew Foy. But while we keep talking, I want to understand something. The unfair advantage of them operating how they're operating with some of the conflict of interest will leave them, to be blunt, in a better economic standing than all the other counterparts in the House of Assembly and the public. So probably that is the reason that most of them cannot understand the cries that is out there in the community. And I said it already in the press conference, I'll say it again. All the evidence have lead me to say that there's a set of full belly, then a set of empty belly, keep free.
Mr. Fraser, that Mr. Foy speaks for you, or you would like to add to that?
Let's go.
Okay, I have this
Last one.
I have the simplest question. Most politicians dream of the day they'll become the leader of their country. Do you have such leadership ambition? You are there.
to become leader of the country?
Yes.
My aspiration in life is simple. I stated it every time I speak. To fulfill my God-given purpose for existing. And once I fulfill that, I feel that I was a success. Whatever God lead me to fulfill, once I do it, I know my life was successful. And that's what I encourage every young person to do when I speak with them. Find what your purpose is and fulfill it. And right now, my purpose is to bring the information, and I know that you'll take a beating, as old people say, because you're in the minority, but this is something that I have to do, then so be it. This is my role at this time. Whatever the section law lead me to, I will do. If leadership comes to any one of us, we'll not back off. And if it comes to anyone, and I have to follow, I've always been a team player. Because power alone comes from God, and that's how I see it. That's why the issues of these things that are being brought up makes no sense about me. They're trying to paint us as power hungry to distract us and distract you all from the issues. But that is water on a duck's back as far as I'm concerned.
Just
Mr.
a query,
President,
not a question.
Mr. President, do you want to become a premier?
In the spirit of unity, that answers good enough for me.
Okay, just a quick query. Since we're already now in the second year of this government, when is VIP Radio coming back?
Well, that is a very complex question because we never went anywhere.
It is not being...
Yeah, because when I say so that that's the party section. What I would say is that like any other party, the party is in a transformational stage, and the constitution will take care of it. It's the same question we could ask, if you want to be political. If the premier now decides that he quits, who will be the leader of the NEP? Did you ever stop to think about that? So
there's a deputy premier.
The deputy premiers don't guarantee anything, and the history of politics shows that most deputy premiers lose elections. I mean, just looking at history. So you can't guarantee that. I'm not saying that this one would, but if you look at history, especially in this country, it's quite a thing. So I would say that both sides have their challenges, but we should never lose focus of representing the people.
No, why I ask that is because persons in the community, they want to interact more with the opposition, and this was a forum to do that. So since it's on hold, as you say, is there any other mean that you're going to be reaching out and
well, it was nice party to hold their own press conference.
Can we see more press conferences?
Coming soon. Yeah. There will be other avenues to pursue that I mentioned to the question that was asked earlier. And we're not going away, despite what Zen thinks about us. we're not going away. So get used to us.
What's the motion you have on the table, Honorable Foy?
You will find out very soon, but I'd like to stop at this point and say thank you all for coming. I want you to know that I know that even in your conscience, Zen, that you would admit that this was one of the press conferences where you got to ask anything on your mind and wasn't given a full time limit, which most of you would say, or given a paper to be told what questions will be asked and what wouldn't. So
I'm not on that list.
This is one of the things that we try to make sure that we do. You got to ask everything that's on your mind, and we'll keep focus on the issues. So thank you very much for coming out, and blessings, happy festival, have an excellent time, and we continue your fair reporting. We don't jump on any media house. We love the fair reporting of all. So thank you.
I would like to close myself by saying that I want to thank you all for coming. I think the discourse was healthy. Some people try to get us rattled, but we try not to do that, especially in a nice air-conditioned space like this. But we're focused, and despite what others may think, we know what we're about. It is not what some people think. And in order for this country to flourish, which is not right now, the government must be challenged. And we will continue to challenge the government, even if it's only the two of us alone doing it. So, thank you for your questions. I think it was a very good session.